I'm Bethany.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is Looking for the Middle.
CouchCast edition.
Well, welcome back. I'm trying to think of what day it will be when we...
This will be the 4th of 5 July CouchCasts. It will be July 23rd.
23rd, okay.
I believe.
Welcome to July 23rd, everyone.
Yes. Woohoo!
We're glad to be here with you now. It is early July when we were recording this because we're, in a spurt of like, ooh, we're going to be on top of things. we'll see how long that lasts. But enough of that. No need to hear about our lack of planning skills at the moment. Let's just jump into it. What are we talking about today, Kristen?
We have a doozy of a question today.
Well, okay then.
The question is,
yes,
how do you handle the in-between? Not quite dating, but not just friends either.
Oh. I know I've been this person. Have you been this person?
I have been this person.
I'm trying to think. Okay, yeah. That's what I was trying to think of.
We've been mouthing a lot of names.
I know. The past couple episodes, I'm like, wait, who's that?
Yeah,
who's this?
Which one? As if we've dated like 15 people apiece. Like, that's not the case at all. Yes, we have both been in this situation.
Yes, it is
something.
It can be fun.
Oh, for sure.
I'm not, but it is.
It's tough.
It is a tough place to be.
It is emotionally draining.
That is what it is. And so if you are in this place, I feel for you. I know how it feels. I have been there for
long time,
for like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I've been there.
Been there for a minute. A situationship is what the kids are calling it these days.
Oh, I feel cool now.
I know, right?
I've heard it called a flirtationship too.
Oh, I like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have been there. And part of I will just say this too. Looking back, I think we as girls put a lot on the guy. We say, "Oh, why isn't he asking me out? Oh, he flirts with me. Oh, whatever." But I think we need to own our part of this too. And we'll get back to the actual question in a minute. I just want to say, like, looking back, I'm like, oh, wow, I don't make it easy for a guy to not have to ask you out.
Ooh.
Okay?
Say that again for the people in the back. Say it again.
I said, don't make it easy for a guy to not have to ask you out. And what I mean by that is, if you're always around and you're always available and you're always hanging out and you're always saying, oh, let's go do this and oh, let's go do that. And you're making it really easy for him to hang out with you all of the time, but he never has to ask you out. He doesn't have to put anything out there. He doesn't have to take any risk. He doesn't have to do anything else. That's on you. And I can say that very forcefully because I'm talking to myself and I have been in that place and I did the thing. Like, that was me.
Yeah.
And looking back, I see that a lot clearer. So that would be my first thing, is evaluate your part in it. And I think if you really want the guy to want to date you and put forth the effort of asking you out, you've got to show him what it's like for you to not be around a little.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go have some big conversation. You don't have to whatever. Just stop being available all the time.
Yeah.
Which will be good for you, because then if he doesn't ask you out, he doesn't pursue that, you are on the right path of taking a step back and not being as emotionally invested in it, because you're probably ahead of where you are realistically as far as the relationship goes too.
Yeah. I mean, my thought process on this is that if you find yourself in this situation, you have two options. You either draw boundaries or you have a conversation.
Yes. 100%.
You can't keep living in this. As fun as it is,
it's fun to get the attention.
It's
fun
so
to be the one that the guy talks to and the whatever else. I am not I'm not arguing
it's
that.
So fun. And because at least for me, my thought was always like, oh, well, if I draw boundaries, if I have the conversation, then it's going to change. And I like the way things are.
Yeah.
And I don't want things to change. But deep down, you really do want things to change because you actually want to be dating the guy.
You just want him to change one way, and you're terrified that if you draw those boundaries, it's going to change the way you don't want. And if that is the case, he doesn't really like you to begin with. And as Kristen always says,
you want to be with somebody who wants to be with you.
Absolutely.
You want to be with a guy who makes it abundantly clear that he likes you, he has feelings for you, he wants to be with you, he wants everybody to know that he wants to be with you. Like, there should be no guessing. And what are we? And does he like me or does he not? Or is this a date? Is it, that's a miserable place to be.
And if the only way you can get clarity on that is by being around all the time and constantly like forcing things to happen, maybe even, as unfun as it is, that needs to stop.
Yeah.
And now, I think we're both talking about if this is for an extended period of time.
Oh, yeah.
You met the guy 2 weeks ago and you're like, oh, he's been flirting with me and oh, whatever. And then it turns into a couple of months and you're like, oh, this is cool. Give it a little time.
Yeah. I mean, that could just be build up to y'all dating.
Exactly.
The timeline's very important.
If it has fallen into a routine over an extended period of time, that's when I think it's either, okay, draw these boundaries or have that conversation. And I think be careful too. It's hard because there's build up, you're getting to know someone and then you start dating them, or there's build up that just leads to more build up and it never really goes anywhere. And I think you've got to have a ceiling to that. I think there's a ceiling to where people can go as friends.
Yeah.
That is appropriate. And so like we've talked about before, if you are friends with a guy to a point that if you like, as far as your hanging out, your interactions, your conversations, to the point that if you were to start dating someone else, that friendship would have to change because it's no longer appropriate because you're dating someone else. It's probably not appropriate now.
Yep.
It's just that who's going to say it? Like it.
Yeah.
It's acceptable.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's best.
I agree.
Again, coming from the girl, I've done all of the things I'm teling you not to do. Let's just put it that way. I've been there.
These are lessons learned the hard way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Yeah.
It's not the easiest. It's not the funnest, but overall, I think you will benefit from drawing those boundaries. And like I said, this does not have to be a conversation of, okay, since you're apparently not going to ask me out, I'm going to do X, Y, Z and not hang out with you as much. Just do it. You don't owe him anything when it comes to that. If he asks, well, obviously be honest. But I think that's a good thing. If he asks, he is noticing. And one other thing I'll throw out there, and we can see where this goes. None of this, either the getting to know or the pulling back, you have to really, really watch your own heart. If you're doing any of this to try to manipulate him, that's wrong at face value. It's one thing to try to make things happen and you're going to put yourself out there. But if you're trying to like play these mental games and like manipulate the situation and, doing it from a manipulative standpoint, that's not okay.
No, not at all. And I think it's important to note, like, I kind of think of this like there's a curve that you're on when you're in one of these situationships. So at the beginning, you're going up the curve. Yeah. It's like, oh, there's all these fun little moments and it's flirty and it's this and it's that. And it's like, you get to this peak rut. Maybe we're going to go for this. Maybe we're going to date. But then it doesn't and it keeps continuing. And because the expectation has been set on like the upward swing.
Yes.
You keep expecting that to just be the same. But then it's like, oh, well, now I kind of want to date him. Or not kind of, you want to date him. And so, yeah, you may still be having these moments, but they're always followed by disappointment because they're not actually leading to anything. Yeah. And so you go down this curve. Yeah. And so even if you're enjoying it now, this is not a sustainable pattern to find yourself in. Good point. You're going to get to a point where you're consistently disappointed because you're going to go like, oh, yeah, so-and-so is going to be there tonight. And he may say 3 words to you. Yeah. And then there may be another night where it's like, oh, well, he talked to me more tonight, but it wasn't really, it wasn't this. Or why can't we have a conversation like we had 3 months ago? Or what about this?
Or he only acts like he really knows me when other people aren't around. Yeah. Like, it's really easy to talk and whatever when it's just the two of you and you're hanging out and whatever, or small group. And then once it's a big group, it's like, well, obviously you're not dating, so he's going to, talk to everybody else or whatever. Right. I think that's a big indicator. If he's very different around just you versus around a lot of people, I think that's probably a big indicator as to where this kind of stands. Yes. Because I know agree. When a guy likes you, he tries to make sure everyone knows that he's talking. Like when it's a bigger group, it's almost like he's a little bit more.
Yeah.
When you're on your own, because there's a little
the territorial thing, remember?
Or there's this territorial thing or whatever. Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a big indicator if he's like super aloof.
Yeah.
In groups like that, when you're like, wait, you don't normally do this, that probably should tell you something, I think.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, it's one of those things where like most of us have been through it, but you don't wish it on anybody.
No.
Because it's so confusing and there's such a lack of clarity. And I will say, the Lord and I have had a lot of conversations about clarity over the years, okay? And for the longest time... Yeah. Well, no. But, not all. That sounded weird.
I was going to say, God talks to
No,
you.
not like I'm not hearing audible voices. Y'all know what I mean.
Yeah. Through his word.
Yes. Thank you. But I pray for clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point where over the past few years that had been a consistent prayer. And every time I prayed for clarity, he shut the door. And I was like, I don't really think our definitions of clarity are the same thing. Because when I pray for clarity, it seems like your answer means no every single time. Yeah. So if I'm asking for clarity, I'm not asking for you to shut the door. I'm just asking, like, I need you to know what my definition of this is here. But I also know that every single time I've prayed for clarity, he's given it to me. You know? Mm-hmm. And I mean, James chapter 1, you know, if anybody lacks wisdom, ask the Lord for it, who gives generously. You know, he's not going to leave you in the dark if you don't want to stay there. You know? Yeah. It is up to you if you want to stay in the dark. He does not want you to linger there, right? So if you want wisdom, you want clarity, you want discernment, and you ask him for that, he's going to give it to you. That is a promise you can hold.
It is.
In his word. And so
it may not be what you want.
Correct.
But that doesn't mean he hasn't given it to you.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's where we need to really be able to step back and have, you know, some maturity in our faith and be like, you know what? I asked for this. The outcome was not really what I wanted, but I also asked for God's best.
Yeah. And I think you have to say, okay, at that point, you're faced with the decision of, what do I want more? Mm-hmm. Do I want the potential of a boyfriend, or do I want to honor the Lord? Do I want to serve him? Do I really trust that he knows what's best for my life? Yeah. That this is the rubber meets the road situation. Mm-hmm. And I think you can learn a lot from those.
Yeah. I read a quote the other day. I think it was on Instagram, but it was like, if you want to live out the Lord's will for your life, think about how much more he wants his will for your life than you do. Yeah. And it's like, we say that all the time. So we're like, I just want the Lord's will. Like, I want to make sure I'm living in his will and I'm on the right path and whatever. Uh-huh. Don't you think he wants that for you even more than you do? Yeah. And it was such a wake-up call. And I was like, why have I never thought of this? Yeah. But of course he does. Of course he wants you walking in his will. Of course he wants his best for you. Of course he doesn't want you to be, you know,
floundering.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you are really searching for that, like, you're not alone in having to figure this out. Like, he's with you through it. And so ask him for clarity. Ask him for wisdom. Ask him for discernment. And be prepared for whatever he gives you, but he will, I can 100% say he will answer that prayer with total confidence. So just keep that in mind too.
I think that's a good place to call it. What do you think?
I think so. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but beep, beep. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I know you are.
Y'all know funny. I'm kidding.
No, I know. Okay, we will wrap it there though, guys. Tune in next week for another CouchCast. We will be back with something. I don't know what we're talking about yet, so I can't tell you at the time of this recording what next week will be, but we're about to go record that and we will see you guys next week. But until then, I'm Bethany.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is Looking for the Middle.